Welcome to another monthly portfolio update. If you are stopping by for the first time, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. In this video, I'll share with you how much I invested in my taxable account in April, the number of shares that I bought, and the value of my portfolio at the end of April. But as always, before I continue, a quick disclaimer. The information that I'm sharing is not financial advice. Before you invest in anything, please do your own research and make sure that you only invest in things that you understand. With that being said, I will dive right into my portfolio update. I will start with a quick recap of my March portfolio to show you the value of the portfolio and the number of shares that I had before the beginning of April. The total equity of my portfolio at the end of March was $43,545.01. $43,473.68 was the market value of my investments, and $71.33 was a cash amount. At the end of March, my portfolio was up $1,111.35. This was a plus 2.62%. These are my holdings: 2 Vanguard ETFs and 2 BlackRock ETFs. VCN is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the entire Canadian market, and I had 70 shares of VCN at the end of March. VFV is a Vanguard S&P 500 Index ETF. This is the Canadian version of a VOO, and I had 230 shares of VFV at the end of March. XEQT is a BlackRock ETF. This is an all-in-one equity ETF which holds Canadian equities, US equities, developed market equities outside US and Canada, and emerging market equities. If you want to hold a single equity ETF which is globally diversified, you may consider looking into XEQT. At the end of March, I had 368 shares of XEQT. XUU is also a BlackRock ETF. This tracks the US total market, and I had 208 shares of XUU at the end of March. I will now show you how much I invested in April and the number of shares that I bought. I bought 2 shares of VCN. The cost per share was $41.60. The total cost, $83.19. And this is 8% of the amount that I invested in April. I bought 6 shares of VFV. The cost per share was $98.35. The total cost, $590.12. And this is 56% of the amount that I invested in April. Most of the amount that I invested in April went to VFV. I bought 12 shares of XEQT. The cost per share was $25.67. The total cost, $308.02. And this is 29% of the amount that I invested in April. I bought 2 shares of XUU. The cost per share was $40.90. The total cost, $81.79. And this is 8% of the amount that I invested in April. In total, I bought 22 shares, all the ETFs combined. And the total amount that I invested in April was $1,063.12. This is $160.22 less than the amount that I invested in March. As you can see here, in March I invested $1,223.34, and in April $1,063.12, and the difference is minus $160.22. The total equity of my portfolio at the end of April was $45,358.64. $45,352.20 was the market value of my investments, and $6.44 was a cash amount. At the end of April, my portfolio was up $1,926.75, and this was plus 4.44%. As of April the 30th, I had 72 shares of VCN, 236 shares of VFV, 380 shares of XEQT, and 210 shares of XUU. All right, let's now take a look at some quick details about each of the positions. I will start with VCN. The closing market price on April the 30th was $41.85. The quantity of shares that I had, 72. The average price, $40.33. The book value was $2,903.91. This is the amount that I have invested in a VCN. The market value was $3,013.20. And this was 6.64% of my portfolio. With VCN, I was up 3.76%, or $109.29. Next, we have VFV. The closing market price on April the 30th was $100.20. The quantity of shares that I had, 236. The average price, $95.46. The book value was at $22,529. The market value was at $23,647.20. This was 52.13% of my portfolio. With VFV, I was up 4.96%, or $1,118.20. Then we have XEQT. The closing market price on April the 30th was $26.10. The quantity of shares that I had, 380. The average price, $25.03. The book value was $9,513.84. The market value was $9,918. This was 21.87% of my portfolio. With XEQT, I was up 4.25%, or $404.16. Finally, we have XUU. The closing market price on April the 30th was $41.78. The quantity of shares that I had, 210. The average price, $40.37. The book value was $8,478.70. And the market value was $8,773.80. This was 19.34% of my portfolio. With XUU, I was up 3.48%, or $295.10. The stock market did pretty well in April. My portfolio went from a plus 2.62% at the beginning of the month to plus 4.44% at the end of the month. This is despite the current crisis in the financial sector, especially with US regional banks. As you may know now, another US bank has failed, First Republic Bank. This is the fourth US bank to fail since the beginning of the year. The other three banks are Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and Silvergate Bank. If this financial crisis continues and we experience more bank failures, it may well spread to the entire economy and potentially lead us to a recession. Some analysts have already started comparing the situation we might be in the coming months to the 2008 global financial crisis. Let's hope it doesn't get there, but it remains a possibility. In Canada, finance is the dominant sector in the Toronto Stock Exchange, or TSX. This is a VCN, one of the ETFs that I hold. The ETF tracks the entire Canadian market. And if you look at the weight by sector, you're going to see that finance comes first with 31.74%. This is almost twice the weight of energy, which is the second dominant sector, with 16.65%. This tells you how important finance is to the Canadian economy. And the big Canadian banks are exposed to the US market as they have operations down there. For example, TD Bank completed earlier this year the acquisition of a Cowen Investment Bank, and the fee to acquire Cowen was $1.3 billion. TD Bank was also planning on acquiring a second US bank this year, First Horizon, which is a regional bank. But recently, TD has called off the $13.4 billion takeover of First Horizon. And under the terms of the agreement, TD will have to pay First Horizon $225 million fee to get out of the deal. I guess TD found paying this fee is better than the risk associated with acquiring First Horizon. Well, we will see in the coming weeks and months what will be the impact of this financial crisis on the overall stock market and the economy. Whatever happens, I will stick to my plans and stay the course. All right, feel free to leave a comment below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Peace out.